the sixth cranial nerve, that is abducent. So the role of abducent nerve, it supplies only one muscle, that is lateral rectus. So it moves the eyeball laterally, and it is also important for conjugate eye movements. What is the introduction? It is the sixth cranial nerve, carries purely motor fibers to lateral rectus. So because it is abductor of the eye, hence it is called abducens. It is carrying 6600 fibers. The functional components are, it has somatic efferent fibers which arise from the abducent nucleus located in the pons, and it carries general somatic afferent fibers, but these are proprioceptive and they are given to the trigeminal ultimately to go to the mesencephalic nucleus of trigeminal located in the midbrain. Now, where is the nucleus of origin of abducent nerve? It is in the pons. So, third and fourth cranial nerves are related to the midbrain, and 5, 6, 7 and 8 are related to the pons. So, sixth nerve nucleus lies in the pons beneath the floor of the fourth ventricle, and here it forms a elevation called the facial colliculus. The facial colliculus is said to be formed by the underlying abducent nucleus along with the motor fibers of facial nerve looping around it, which is called the internal genu of the facial nerve. The abducent nucleus also has a group of interneurons which form the paraabducent nucleus, which is communicating through the medial longitudinal fasciculus with the third, fourth and the sixth and the eighth nerves together for coordinated or conjugated eye movements. Now the central connections, it is connected through corticonuclear fibers to the with the motor cortex, through the medial longitudinal fasciculus for conjugate eye movements, and tectobulbar tract with the superior colliculus. This sixth nerve is also not connected to the pretectal nucleus. Only the oculomotor nerve is connected with the pretectal nucleus. The fourth and sixth are not connected. What is the superficial origin? So from the abducent nerve nucleus in the pons, the nerve emerges and it passes forwards. It passes through the trapezoid body, through the medial lemniscus and the basilar part of the pons. This basilar part has pontine nuclei and transversely running fibers. Then the nerve arises from the pons on its ventral side at the pontomedullary junction, where at the level between the pyramids of the medulla and the pons. So this is the where the abducent nerve emerges. These are the pyramids and this is the pons. Intracranial course. Now the abducent nerve is said to have a longer course and it has bends along the course. That is why it is prone for damage or stretching, leading to the paralysis of the muscle supplied by it. So first is it lies along the upper border of pons and it bends forwards, upwards and laterally in the cisterna pontis, where it lies dorsal to the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. Then it runs through the inferior venous compartment at the junction of petrous temporal bone and the clavus part. So this is the petrous temporal bone and this is the clavus part that is formed by the fusion of the basi occiput and basi sphenoid. Now at this junction there is a bow shaped canal called the Dorelow's canal and the abducent nerve, it lies in this canal over here. Now it pierces the dura here and it goes above the petrous temporal. Now here there is another sharp bend of the nerve before it enters the cavernous sinus. Now it enters the cavernous sinus. It lies inferolateral to the internal carotid artery in the cavernous sinus. In its extracranial course, it exits through the superior orbital fissure within the tendinous ring of Zinn. Here it lies first below and then between the two divisions of oculomotor nerve. It is lateral to the nasociliary nerve. The peculiarities is it has a long course. It changes directions 3 times. First it is downwards and forwards, then it is upwards and forwards, and then laterally and straight forward. So the nerve bends twice at the upper border of the along the upper border of the pons. From the medulla it goes upwards and upper border of petrous temporal bone. It terminates by supplying the lateral rectus muscle of the eyeball from its ocular side at the junction of anterior 2/3 and posterior 1/3. The proprioceptive fibers are carried through the sixth nerve and handed over to the trigeminal. So the communications are with the trigeminal and with the sympathetic nerves, which are forming a plexus around internal carotid artery. Now what are conjugate movements? So usually both eyes act in unison. For example, if you want to look at an object which is on the right side, the right lateral rectus should act simultaneously with the left medial rectus. So this is controlled by the gaze centers which are located in para-abducent nuclei, which are made up of interneurons. So when you look at an object, the gaze is either in saccades. What is saccade? It is fast movements where gaze shifts from one target to another. And tracking movements. Tracking is when you follow an object where the movements of the eyes are slow and smooth. As for example, when you follow a plane moving in the sky or a bird moving in the sky. So saccades and tracking are the gazes or the conjugate movements of the eye. So two functions. It acts on lateral rectus for abduction and it helps in conjugate movements through the para-abducent gaze center. What is the applied? Abducent nerve is more prone for damage, as we said, because of its long course, because of the sharp bend, and when there is raised intracranial tension, there is downward shift of the brainstem and it stretches this nerve. So what are the presentations? There is paralysis of lateral rectus, so inability to abduct the eye. Abduction is not possible. So because lateral rectus is paralyzed, the medial rectus is acting more, so it leads to medial squint, and when the patient tries to look on the lateral side, there is diplopia. Now there may be lesion in the pons which will affect the sixth nerve. It will also affect the seventh nerve because these two nerves are emerging at the same level. The nuclei are lying at the same level in the pons, and this is called Millard-Gubler syndrome. What is the presentation in this syndrome? There is ipsilateral, same-sided medial squint. This will be due to damage to the sixth nerve, paralysis of lateral rectus. Similarly, there is ipsilateral facial palsy due to damage to the seventh nerve. And the corticospinal fibers which are not yet crossed when they are damaged, it will lead to contralateral hemiplegia. So these are the features when there is lesion in the pons. So to see the abducent nerve in short, the abducent nerve arises from the pons at the level of the lower part of the pons, which is the open part, which is forming the facial colliculus. The facial colliculus formed by the abducent nerve nucleus. The nucleus of the facial nerve lies here. Now this facial nerve will arise from its nucleus and it will wind around like this and form the facial nerve. It will emerge from the pons. And this is called the internal genu, which forms the facial colliculus. Now this is the pons, which is having the basilar part, which is made up of transversely running fibers, and there are pontine nuclei. In front of this basilar part, there is a trapezoid, diamond-shaped trapezoid body, which is formed by the fibers of the cochlear nerve nuclei. And in front of that, there is a chain of lemnisci. So here there is a medial lemniscus on either side. And then there is spinal lemniscus, there is trigeminal. So we will just show here the medial lemniscus. Now the abducent nerve arises from this abducent nucleus. It will pass anteriorly, it will pass through the medial lemniscus, through the trapezoid body, basilar part of the pons, and it will emerge out from the medulla. So these are the diagrams which you will be required to draw for this. So here are the olives, here is the anterolateral sulcus, and here are the pyramids. So the abducent nerve will arise from here at the junction of pontomedullary junction at the level of the pyramids. Now after it arises from here, it will go traverse first forward. So it will go upward and forward over the pons like this. So it will bend here. First it will bend, it will have this bend. It will go upward, forward and laterally. Then in the interpeduncular cistern, here is the clevus and here is the apex of the petrous temporal bone. So the nerve will bend, it will go like this and it will bend over the petrous temporal, sharp bend. So first bend is here and the second bend is over the petrous temporal, and then it will traverse forwards, downwards, forwards and medially. Here it will lie in the floor of the cavernous sinus. Inferolateral to the internal carotid artery. So it is here, and then it will come out like this and it will emerge out through the superior orbital fissure. This is the tendinous ring, and it will come out through the between the two divisions of the oculomotor. We said here is the nasociliary, and initially the abducent nerve will lie below the two divisions here somewhere, and later on in its course it will come to lie next to the nasociliary between the two divisions. So this is the course of abducent nerve. Suppose there is a damage to this nerve because of its long course and because of the stretching. Somewhere in this course the lateral rectus will get damaged. Suppose there is lesion in the pons here. Both the abducent and the facial, this is 7th, both will get paralyzed. So there will be ipsilateral medial squint, ipsilateral facial nerve palsy, and these corticospinal fibers are affected. So there will be contralateral hemiplegia or Miller-Gubler syndrome.